how in the world can we make time for exercise? Like, honestly, there is work. We still need to serve our families. We still need to rest. Some of us who love reading books, I'm raising my hand there. We have books to read that we want to enjoy. We want fun time. There's time for reading our Bibles. We have our prayer journals, meal planning. We still need to take care of our marriages. There's financial management. There's piano lessons for our kids, swimming lessons, soccer, cleaning the house, family, fun. It goes on, right? I have a whole list here that I haven't even finished reading the list. It's ridiculous because there are tons of things to do. So how in the world do you find time to exercise in this crazy rush-filled world? Well, in this episode, I'm going to share with you how I personally carve out exercise when things are crazy busy. I'm going to give you 3 ways to make that happen. Let's get it. As a Christian female in the fitness industry, I've seen so many women frustrated as they search for transformation through diets and exercise alone. And what I realized is that God's Word, the most important part of this life for a Christian, seems to be the portion that's always missing from what we're being taught about being fit and healthy. Courageous Fit Female is a podcast for women who love Jesus and want to get fit and healthy His way. Want to seek His truth versus what the world says? Then let's get into today's show. All right, here we are in the episode. But before we get into the 3 ways on how I carve out exercise when things are crazy busy, this is for everyone listening who wants accountability, who maybe you're going through an actual fitness program, but you feel stumbled. You're not really sure how things are working out for you. Maybe there's an actual program that you are in, a diet or whatever it is, but you're not sure what steps to take because it's not just about drinking a shake, right? Let's be real. It's not just about doing some burpees. There are a lot of pieces that are involved to get to your next step. Now, it's not just about step A and step B. There's like step A, B, all the way through Z. And how do you get through that? And so if you're feeling confused and you're not sure if you're even being guided in the right direction, then come on over to my one-on-one coaching program. I am telling you, there are pieces that were missing from the programs that I joined. And all those little pieces that no one ever really talks about, those are the things that we're going to go through one-on-one. I give you full attention. We figure out what is personal to you, what is customized specifically for the season that you're in, so we can take it up a notch and move forward. So even if you feel like you're doing all the things and you've tried all the things and you feel like you're not moving forward, email me. It's down below, Jacqueline@courageousfitfemale.com. One-on-one coaching time is what changed the game for me. It didn't matter if it was for business or if it was trying to eat healthier. Like, people will tell you to eat healthier, but I hired a dietitian for that, and having that one-on-one time, having it personal for me was the game changer. So I have 2 spots available for coaching. 3, 2, 1, go. Email is down below, Jacqueline@courageousfitfemale.com. If you know this is for you, or if you have questions, get to your email now and let's get you set up. Give me your questions so I can reply and make sure that you have all your questions answered. I also have a menu if you want to just know the investment, and we'll go from there. Okay, now into today's episode. This is part 2 of the Heart Check series. And just as I mentioned in the introduction, there's a bunch of things that we have to do, that we need to do, right? We have obligations, we have commitments, we have dental appointments and lessons for our kids. And how do you find time to exercise? How do you find time to really carve out when you have 100 other things to do? Like, you're just super exhausted by the end of the day, and you would rather, justifiably, right? You would rather lay on the couch or lay on the bed and just scroll and just be mindless. And this is the reality. I'm not talking out of trying to condemn you. This is the reality of what life is like when life is crazy. I've been through seasons where sometimes I skip working out for like a whole month in a row, sometimes 3 months in a row. And that's because of what I'm going to share with you today. That it's because I didn't implement what I'm going to share with you today. So let's talk about these 3 ways to make it happen. Okay. Oh, by the way, just a reminder, the Bible verse theme for this series is from the book of Luke, chapter 12, verse 34, which says, "For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." And I just pray that you keep this in mind and have it front and center as you're listening to these 3 episodes, part 1, part 2, and part 3 of the Heart Check series. All right, so what I'm going to share with you has to do with what we probably all heard of, and that is time blocking. Now, before you decide to exit out of this episode, please hear me out and listen to what I'm going to share with you, because I've tried so many different things, and this has been an answered prayer for me. This is something that I have learned to take action, to press the pause button and take time out of my day to figure out how this thing truly works. Okay, how does it work? I finally received the conviction that I was serving 2 masters. In the book of Matthew 6:24, it says that no one can serve 2 masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will be loyal to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and mammon, right? Or in other translations, it's talking about money. So we're not talking about money. We're talking about spending time on all the other different things, all the things that are not priorities, that are not value to our life, that does not bring impact to other people for the kingdom, right? Ultimately, it's always about bringing impact to other people in small ways and in big ways. And if we don't take the time to take care of our bodies, which is stewarding it for God's kingdom, it's stewarding it so that God can use us. And if we choose to ignore it and to neglect stewarding our bodies by exercising, that's just one of the ways, right? It's also how we feed our bodies and how we fuel it. But we're talking about exercise today, and how do we carve that out? So I just wanted to give you that kind of scenario to let you know that I totally understand. I can totally relate to not spending time on exercise, because there are a million things to do, right? And it can get super exhausting at the end of the day, and on and on and on. And then it becomes this cycle, and then it becomes this justification that I'm tired. But let me just tell you that the reason why we are exhausted is because we are not taking the time to prioritize the values in our lives. So let's get into this episode. I am following the structure of a planner that I purchased. This is the 2nd year in a row that I'm using this planner. This is a yearly planner that breaks down into monthly, weekly, and daily. And I love this planner. It has helped me tremendously with how to block my time for different parts of my life that are super important to me. I will link a link down below, and that is a link that you can see this planner. So this planner that I'm using, that's the link down below, and you can learn all about it. There are tutorials, videos that Polly Payne, she's the owner of Horacio Printing, and this planner is just beautifully designed. And as a matter of fact, I just thought of it now that it has every single quarter of the year, because it's a yearly planner. It has a section at the beginning of every quarter to do a heart check. So that's super neat that it goes along with this theme, right? This heart check theme. If you look down below in the show notes, there is a link, which is go.courageousfitfemale.com/discount. I am an affiliate for this planner, and that just tells you that I get a commission should you use the link down below and you purchase the actual planner or anything from that site, okay? So that's my disclaimer. In addition, you can snag a PDF download directly from the Horacio Printing website. Same link that I'm giving you down below. You can look for the PDF, that's the actual structure, and you can follow along in this episode. You can fill it out with me. I'm going to be giving you examples of my own as we go through this episode, but you can snag a PDF download. And you'll find that download by going to that Horacio link down below. Once you get to the website, you're going to click on resources, hover over to the left and click on 2022 planner resources. Then you're going to see a heading called full resource library. You're going to scroll down. You're going to see a box on the right hand side that's called personal growth plan tutorial. And then when you click on that, scroll down, you'll see a video of exactly what I'm going to talk to you about today and how I'm going to be filling it out. You can do that. But to get the PDF scroll down a little bit further and you'll see snag a free PDF download here. So you decide you can download that, or you can just use a plain old notebook, a clean sheet of paper in a notepad, and follow along with what I'm saying. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do to carve out exercise when things are crazy busy is to write down 8 categories, starting with number 1, personal, number 2, financial, number 3, professional, number 4, dwelling, number 5, spiritual, number 6, physical, and then numbers 7 and 8, you're going to decide what to fill in for those 2 categories. So for example, if you're a mother, you can put motherhood. And if you're married, you can put down marriage. It's really all up to you how you want to fill in those blanks. If you want it to be hobbies or whatnot. If you're going to school, you can write school into that category. So that's for the last 2 categories. But also I wanted to mention that these are in no particular order, as you will see in the PDF if you snag it from Horacio Printing. Okay, so now the next thing we're going to do is after you list down all those categories, you'll then have a list to refer back to, and then I want you to draw a big circle, and on the outside of the circle, you're going to write each of those categories on the outside, and on the inside of the circle, you're going to draw spokes so that each of the category names or the category titles will have a piece of the pie, so to speak. The next step, now that you have all of the categories outside of that circle and you have your own pie diagram, you're going to shade in each of those categories according to how you are doing in these areas. So if you're not doing so great, for example, in the financial area, then you'll just color in like a little slither, shade in just a little bit of financial. If you're doing really great in, let's say, personal, then you would color it mostly completely. For me personally, I don't like to totally shade in the entire pie piece because I always know that there's room for improvement and room for growth. And Chelsea Joe and Polly Payne, these are the 2 women that are going over that tutorial in the link that I shared with you down below. And Chelsea Joe gives a really good question to ask ourselves as we're thinking about how much to shade in these pie pieces. For example, for motherhood, you can ask yourself, at the end of the day, when I look at how I treated my child or my children, I feel blank. Or if you're married, when I interact with my spouse, I regularly feel blank. And those are really great questions to help you if you're not really sure how much of your pie piece to fill in for each category. And the actual planner or the PDF, if you have the PDF download, that actually tells you to fill it in based on how encouraged you are or how discouraged you are. So that's another way to look at it, a way to help you to gauge how much to fill in to each pie piece or to each category. Now, let me give you some examples of the things that I've shaded in. So I'll go over physical, I'll go over marriage, and I'll go over professional. Okay, so for physical, I shaded it almost to the top. So I am really in tune with this program that I've just recently signed up for to take care of my physical body. I really needed some structure to that, and I needed someone to tell me what to do. But because of that, I've been super, super enthusiastic because I've been seeing these physical changes and physiological changes taking place in my body. My energy has been going up, and I'm super excited about that. I have been so on board with this program, and that is for physical. Now, if I move over to marriage, it's just a little bit lower than physical. I really value date nights with my husband every Saturday, and every single day throughout the week, we pretty much communicate on everything from frustrations to prayers to what we learned in the Bible to what are we going to eat for dinner, all the things, right? But there are some points where we get to a date night and I'm like, sometimes it feels like super routine-ish, if you know what I mean. And so I had to take some time to research or to Google what are some ideas that we can do on our date night that are fun. And that's the reason why it's a little bit lower than physical, because although we pay special attention to each other and our marriage and we do these check-ins, my husband calls in the middle of the day during his work break to just touch base. And that is something that I am so grateful for, my husband taking the time to do that and just to stay connected. But I did it a little bit lower than physical because I feel like we can up it a little bit, if you know what I mean. Specifically for our date nights. Okay, and then the third example that I'm going to give you is for professional. So for my work, it's actually the lowest, like the least amount of shading in the entire pie, because I have not been spending a lot of time on my business. I have been doing these episodes diligently pretty much every single week. But if I were to compare everything else in my life, that's actually the least that I am working on. And that is a season that I had to learn through, because I made work an idol at one point, and I had to pull back a little bit and pay attention to my family and pay attention to my personal life, learn how to build friendships, and, really find value in relationships, new relationships that the Lord has been placing in front of me, instead of always putting work in front of everything else. And so that's the reason why that's like the smallest, least amount of shading that I have. And so those are 3 examples that I wanted to give you. And if you haven't already, go ahead and shade your pie pieces in. Now, the next thing is, as soon as you're done with that, we're going to move on to the next part of the PDF, which is where it says, why did I give myself that rating? So the first one, I didn't mention it. Sorry. It is, who do I want to become? Now we're talking about, why did I give myself that rating? If you're not following along with the PDF, go ahead and just, again, look back at the categories that I gave you in the beginning, or that you wrote down in the beginning. And for each of those categories, now you're going to write down, why did you give yourself that specific rating? So let me go over the examples that I gave you a second ago. So what I wrote in for physical is that the program that I am on, it has been an answered prayer for me, and the program has really been keeping me on track, and it has been working in helping me to have less joint pain, and I'm really feeling super good. I'm feeling great in my body. I'm feeling super energetic to serve. And that's the reason why the shading was super high. I saw a lot of fruit from going through that program. Now, the second example was marriage, and I wrote down here that date nights are consistent, but however, there are some nights or some date nights when I feel like something's missing. So being transparent with you, right, guys, that this sometimes can feel monotonous. But overall, our actual marriage is super blessed by the Lord. He's really giving us eye openers as to keeping him at the center of, truly how he designed marriage, and putting him at the center of our marriage. It's not perfect, but that's where he's brought us from, where we came from back before we were Christians and our life was all messed up, right? Back in 2015 or 12 to 15. And I've shared that before on this podcast. So your turn now. Why did you give yourself that rating? Take some time, press pause if you need to, and write down why you gave yourself that amount of shading, or that little of shading in that specific category. And by the way, just be sure to keep in mind that some areas are going to be weaker than others. Some are going to be stronger than others. I gave you a transparent example that in my professional area, in my work life, right? It was super tiny, guys. It was like a fraction of the pie, because I have not been spending quality, impactful time in my business. And that is okay. You're going to go through seasons. You're going to have different phases of life that you're going to be called into different areas. And that's just what it is. All right. So the next thing we're going to do now is, on your notepad, if you don't have the PDF, you're going to write down, let's get encouraged. That's what the PDF says. Let's get encouraged. So I want you to write down one action to help you be more encouraged in that specific area or that specific category. So maybe for you, if you're not really encouraged with the physical, right, you can write down that the action step is to schedule in structured workout days, and also the specific types of exercises that you're going to do. We need to be very specific here. Don't just put down, I'm going to work out more, right? We need to know exactly what workout it is, what days of the week, and be as specific as possible. And a side note for you is that if you are already feeling encouraged in a specific category, still write down that thing. So you're just going to transfer it over or carry it over to this area. So in this example for myself, for the physical, I was very encouraged. So what I would write down is what was making me encouraged, right? And that's seeing the fruit because I am consistent and I'm following an actual specific structure, a fitness program structured specifically for me. So go ahead and fill that out for you. Write one specific action that you can do. And this is based on weekly. So think of it as a checkbox that you're actually able to put a check mark to it that you actually did the thing. You did the action step. If you're following the PDF, then you can go ahead and circle. You can write down your one action step. It actually says 1 to 3, but I would focus on just one. Chelsea Jo actually mentions to write one specific one that you can walk away with, that you can check mark and do weekly on a weekly basis. Write it down, whatever that is for you. And here's the super exciting part, guys. Those are your fundamentals. These are the fundamental things that you will be doing or you need to do or you must do in order to achieve the next thing for that specific category. So again, my example of the physical part, I wrote down about my workout, right? In that structured program, that was something that really helped me to get fruit. And I'm going to continue to do that. So on a weekly basis, I will continue to do that. All right, so the next part of this is a page that says declare. You're basically going to declare, write down who you want to become and your big dreams in these areas of your life, okay, for each category. And you're basically just transferring everything over that you just wrote, the one specific action, and you're going to write it in the next page where basically it's that big circle pie diagram again with all the categories on the outside. So redraw that if you're writing this in your notepad. And now you're going to take every one of those one single action steps and put it into the pie slice in this new pie diagram. Going back to my physical example, what I've written down here was my actual workout, right? The workout program that I'm going to be doing on a weekly basis. Very specific. Now, at this point, if you're feeling like it's too repetitious for you and you don't want to keep writing an actual specific thing, you're the only one who's going to be reading this, right? So go ahead and just be general if you want to. As long as you personally know exactly what that means, then that's fine. You don't have to write out the whole specific thing. Okay, sisters, I hope you're still with me. Now, okay, we're talking about how I carve out exercise when things are crazy busy, right? I'm going to give you 3 ways to make it happen. So if you're this far in with me, congratulations, you are sticking with it. And I pray that you continue to keep listening because this is where it gets really good. This is where God has given me this bigger picture to all the things that I was missing out on back then, back when I was not making my priorities come into play. I was not making my priorities an important part of my day. I just did things very haphazardly and I knew what was important, but I wasn't doing them according to what was important to me as far as my spiritual growth, as far as my work, as far as my family and my health. And yes, I did all those things. Those all were things that were always important to me, but I didn't prioritize them in the way it should be. So now the next thing I want you to do is I want you to write down the next 5 categories. And these are not categories that you're going to write down anymore with the previous things that we just talked about. These are going to be color coded into an actual calendar. So I did have a blank calendar that I gave out in another episode previously. I'll go ahead and link it down below, but you can use that, or you can use whatever calendar you're reset. Or you can use whatever calendar you have on hand right now. It's best to use a paper planner for this. So that's what I highly recommend. And that's why I'm giving you guys this really great resource. It's a Christian-based planner. But whatever planner you're using, go ahead and make it a paper planner. And then later on, you can transfer it over to an electronic or a digital planner. So the 6 things that I want you to write down are in this order: morning routine, AM, midday, PM, night routine, and fundamental needs. And then you're going to come up with your own color code system according to what you want these colors or what you want these categories to be. So for morning routine, I have pink. For AM, I have yellow. For midday, I have purple. For PM, I have blue. For night routine, I have green. And for fundamental needs, I have it brown. And fundamental needs, they're actually a separate thing from the first 5. The first 5, they're actually different parts of your day. And this is how you're going to schedule in exercise. This is how I do it. So I look at everything that are fundamental needs. Remember I told you congratulations earlier that these are all the fundamental things that you wrote down? When you go back to your notes, you're going to look at all the one single action steps that you wrote down. And those are your fundamental needs. You circled them because they were the most important parts of your category in how to move forward, how to achieve the next step, how to be successful at moving forward and moving the needle closer to where you want to be, whether it's in your marriage or your personal life or your dwelling. So those are your fundamental needs. Now, your fundamental needs are going to be written in your planner. And so are all these other categories, right? Morning routine, AM, all the way up to night routine. You're going to write these down. And so for each color, you have colors for them because in your planner, you're going to color code morning routine. So it's a section that you're going to block out just in the morning time. And morning time is included as right when you wake up and before the chaos comes into play, right? Before you get your kids out the door. And so morning routine for me would include prayer and a smoothie. That's my breakfast. And then I would block out yellow for the next part. Again, all of these colored blocks will not have gaps between them. All of these blocks will be smushed side by side. So I have a pink block that says prayers and smoothie. Then I have a yellow block, which is my AM block. And it says, I list down my workout. Then on the next block is purple. That's midday for me. That's work. That's when I start my work. And then the next block is the blue one, which, my family and my dinner time. And then the green block would be my nighttime routine. And that's for me, just basically reading a book and not having any devices on. And I never do this perfectly, but the Lord has really been helping me in this area to not have any devices on right before bedtime. So when you're looking at my calendar, a stranger will know exactly what I'm doing. There's nothing complicated about it. It's super simple to read. And I have each block of the day colored appropriately for a specific time frame of the day. And every fundamental thing is that I list out in my schedule or in my time frame block schedule is colored brown. So if you look at my time block schedule, you see I have prayers, right? Because that's part of my spirituality is I have that in a brown box. I also have down the slow and grow study that I'm doing. I have that in a brown box. I also have my workout in a brown box, and I also have date night in a brown box. And I'm still learning how to use this. For you. You might be more comfortable to see it visually, and that's fine. Some of them I do have where I put down the actual time in my colored box of what activity I'm going to be doing for that time. Gosh, guys, this was so much information, and it's really not like the simplest thing to do, for me at least, in explaining how to do it on a podcast. But Polly Payne and Chelsea Joe, they do such a great job at explaining everything. I encourage you to snag that download, snag that PDF, and I encourage you to listen to their videos, listen to how they're teaching you how to put a time frame to your day. And this is how I've been getting my workouts, and this is how I've been carving out, even if I have a lot of other things to do, guys. I have a parent that needs my help. I have, my son, he needs to go to piano lessons. And then if emergencies happen, then I need to make myself available for that. And that's the other thing, is that don't think that this entire time block schedule is going to be perfect. It's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be something that's going to guide you. And that's why it's super important that you write this down on paper and that you put this all in a paper planner, because I'll tell you right now that your phone can remind you, right? This is what Chelsea Joe even said. She's like, a phone will remind you when and where that you're supposed to be, but it's also very distracting, right? To use your phone planner, to use a digital planner. So use a paper planner instead. The paper planner is going to help guide your intentions and your emotions. That's the end of this episode. Let me know what you thought of it. I really hope that this is something that you put into place, that you put your pen to your paper, and let me know if you have any questions. Again, I encourage you to go and check out the link below, and there will be actual visuals that you can see through these videos on Horacio. Okay, I'm signing off for now, ladies. Let's get you carving out those exercise sessions. Even when things are crazy busy, you can do it. These are the 3 ways to make it happen. I'll see you on the next episode, ladies. For His honor and for Jesus' glory, stay courageous and fit.